It sounds a little bit as if you were telling yourself, it doesn't matter to me, I'm going to be able to cope with it, but maybe it's not really true.
No, it's true.
She's over with it?
It's true, but it's just, it's not, oh, I'm not hurt, I can, you know, life goes on, and yes, it has hurt me, but I can survive, and that's just the way it is.
And the one that's left behind, or that left you behind, is the one that's going to be hurt after all? That's what it says, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't make the decision for that person.
Yeah, it looks like that in the video, because that guy seems to be in the lower position then, after all.
Well, everything you do comes back to you.
Yeah. And then, what about this Spanish thing in it? How do you feel about this Spanish thing? And, you look a little bit like maybe already Evita in those two videos, without wanting to talk about the film right now. We're going to do that later. Is that something like a preparing for it?
No, because when I did the Take a Bow video, I wasn't doing the movie. The movie wasn't mine. I mean, I hadn't been offered the role yet. I've always dealt with, I think I must have been Latin in another life or something, because I've written a lot of songs that have like Spanish themes to them, and I always use Spanish guitar, and I'm very drawn to Latin things. So I don't really know, that's just an unexplainable influence.
But also the styling and everything, doesn't your hair, like you have it in those videos, that doesn't have anything to do with that figure? Maybe that already, before that you admired that woman or something, before you knew you were going to do the movie?
Well, I think I'm influenced by all kinds of things. When I did Take a Bow, I had no idea that I was doing Evita. I promise you that.
Yeah, I believe you. I swear, I swear.
Oh.
And the influences in your music, on your new record, seem to be very European. Why is that?
Like, which songs are you talking about?
Yeah, for example, you working with Massive Attack, you working with Nelly Hooper, you working with Björk, which is Bedtime Stories, but still, it seems as if you were focusing on European music a little bit.
Well, the reason that I worked with Björk and Massive Attack is because of Nelly Hooper. I asked Nelly Hooper to work on my last record, and while I was working on it, he suggested that I work with Björk. And since I was always a fan of hers, I did. And then, while I was making my Bedtime Story record, the guys from Massive Attack would come by and hang out in the studio because they were friends with Nelly, and they say to me at the time, well, we'd love to work with you sometime in the future. So when the Marvin Gaye tribute album came up, Nelly called me and said, would you like to work with Massive Attack? And I said, yes. It's all because of my friendship with Nelly. That's why.
Because it's so surprising that you... For me, you know, when I saw that now you're working with Massive Attack and with Björk and with Nelly Hooper, it seems so very much up to date, you know, like in Europe, and also I think in America. I don't know how popular they are in America.
They're not as popular here as they are in Europe.
Yeah, in Europe they're very popular, and it seemed like, how did she just know that this is the right time to do it with those people? But then it's just coincidence?
Well, I listen to a lot of European music. I happen to be... I've always listened to Björk, I've always been a fan of hers, and I've always been a fan of Massive Attack, and a lot of the things that Nelly Hooper's done, which is why I wanted to work with him on my last album. So, but I tend to listen to, I'm not really into American music, not new American music anyways. I mean, I listen to old R&B, old soul, old blues records, jazz, but I listen to a lot of Latin music.
What is the music from right now? What is the new American music? What would you say? Don't you consider yourself a part of it?
No.
No?
No.
Standing somewhere
no, I always
above all that?
think of myself as an outsider.
And not belonging to the American culture at all. So, I once heard that when you produced a song that Prince wrote, you never really sat together with him or talked to him about it. You just sent tapes back and forth.
Well, I talked to him all the time on the phone, and we met when we decided to work. When I went out to Minneapolis for a couple of days, and we got the original idea for the song, and then I couldn't stand staying there because it was too cold. So we went back to Los Angeles.
It's too cold.
So we would work on the master tape and send it back and forth to each other through the mail. That's how we finished it.
So in Iceland, it was too cold also? Because I heard that you didn't meet Björk either. What was
well,
that
actually,
like?
she was on tour. and I was in Los Angeles, and I would have worked with her, but she was on the road all the time, and I could never get into the same spot she was at, so.
But sometime you met.
Yes.
There must have been a time where you met.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's not like that when I imagine you and Björk wrote a song together, or Björk wrote a song for you, that you two sit on a table and go, what do you think of this, and should we do it this way?
That.
And how can I imagine you working on a song that you write? What does that look like? Do you just need
I'm laying on the floor on my stomach, writing in my notebook.
And do you need a special mood so to be creative, or so that something comes up inside of you? That,
yeah, I do, but I can't tell you what that is, because all different moods inspire me. Something has to inspire me.
And is it that you
I need to be alone, that's for sure.
And you jump up at night and say, oh, now I've got it?
Sometimes, yeah.
And it's not like that you tell yourself sometimes, well, I have to write a new song, and you get up at 9 o'clock in the morning, sit down and...
I do that too.
So everything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about writing a song in any way, like when you sit in a car and you sit in the bathtub.
Yeah.
There's not a special moment when you're most productive.
Usually right after someone breaks my heart, I'm terribly productive.
You think that pain and being sad is good for being creative?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're happy, you're not?
No, I am, but for me, pain is more inspiring.
But then
when I'm happy, I'm too busy being happy.
Yeah, but that's what I wanted to say. You're very creative, so you must be sad a lot of times, or there must be a lot of people breaking your hearts when you write so many songs.
That's true.
Sorry. Well, yeah. What is it that makes a song a real Madonna song? If you, for example, take a Marvin Gaye song like I Want You, and then there's Massive Attack working on it, but still it's your song, and everybody would know it's your song. It's, besides your voice.
Well, that's what it is, really. It's the sound of my voice and the emotion in my voice that's mine and no one else's.
Is there a special style to the music? I mean, if the producer is sitting there, you maybe tell him also what to do? Or do you leave the producer alone and say, do whatever you want to do?
No, I work, and it's a total collaboration. But once again, there is no method. I interpret the song my own way. And, you know, I can't answer that question.
Oh. But in your music, you always have everything. I mean, I think you're best when you have everything under your control. What do you think? If you can decide how things work, so at the end, your product is very close to yourself.
It's not a question of being in control. It's a question of working with people who have the same ideas that I have, who are sympathetic to my ideas. I don't want to work with someone who just agrees with everything I do. I want to work with someone who has ideas that I am interested in. So we collaborate on things together. And I'm the most happy when I feel that it is the closest to the truth or the closest to what I want to say. But very often, other people, Nelly Hooper influenced me with a lot of his ideas, and that's why I chose to work with him, because I like his style, I like his taste in things, I like the way he looks at life, and those are the kind of people that I want to work with.
I heard you talking about you would really like to have a child. You couldn't choose the right people for you to work with? Because I read somewhere that the thing that made you feel not too comfortable with some of your movies were that you couldn't have the product somehow under your control, that you could at the end say, well, this has something to do with me.
Well, when you're an actress or an actor in a film, you have very little to do with the outcome of the film. Your performance a director can take your performance and do anything he wants with it in the editing room. The difference between being an actress and writing a song and performing that song is that you are much more submissive as an actress. You have to, the person with the vision and the person with a real point of view is the director.
So you said that you should become a director soon. That's what I read that you said.
I would like to, eventually, yeah.
What is it that you had the feeling that the directors did to you and your acting in the movies?
Well, every movie is a different scenario. I mean, there's some movies I'm perfectly happy with the way they came out. In other movies, I feel that the director had a very misogynistic point of view and made my character stupid or weak or killed me in the end or whatever. But, I mean, every movie is a different story.
And which movie is the one that you're most proud of? Or which one do you like best?
Snake Eyes.
And you said sometimes then you're killed at the end, like for example in, what's the name of the movie in English? I don't know, unfortunately, with William Dafoe.
Oh, Body of Evidence.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And isn't it like that, for example, if they tell you first in the script you're not going to die, mm-hmm. and then suddenly they change everything, mm-hmm. don't you have any influence on that?
No. I mean, I can throw a fit, but in the end the director makes the decision.
If you look at how the press and the public received your movies, mm-hmm. do you think that somehow they didn't give you the same chances that maybe a young actress from an actor school would get when she performs on her first film?
Yes, I agree with you.
Is it like that you had the feeling that your face is already occupied by something as they know you and that's how they want to see you?
Well, because I'm already successful in another area, they sort of don't give you a chance to grow and make mistakes. You're expected to be absolutely perfect in everything, and if you do anything less than perfect, they can't forgive you for it. You're judged with a whole different set of rules.
Because you were already popular
successful.
Before.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that's in any country like that, or do you?
Yes, absolutely.
Not especially in America.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
And do you think that getting credits as an actress is more important to you than, for example, having another #1 hit record?
It's equally important.
How do you think that it works with two completely different careers, acting and making songs? Do you think that this can cross?
They're two different mediums, just like painting. It's all different. It's a different art form. When you're acting, you're playing someone else. When you're singing, you're playing yourself. So it can't be compared.
What's easier for you? Playing yourself or playing somebody else?
Well, they're both difficult, believe it or not.
Why is it difficult being yourself?
Because I think everybody has a hard time being who they are sometimes. It depends. I mean, sometimes you don't want, sometimes it's easier to hide behind a facade of something else than to actually be honest and completely who you are and totally open and emotionally naked.
But you always gave me, for example, the impression as if you would totally just do what you are and what you want to be.
Well, that is something that I believe in, but it's not something I'm always successful at.
You're trying to,
mm-hmm.
but it doesn't always work.
Exactly.
And then you're also playing another role?
Sometimes.
And what was fascinating you with the role of Evita?
What fascinates me is just that the influence, the unbelievable influence and impact that she had on the world at that time, that she had so much political power, that she was a woman, that she came from nothing. She started out as a poor girl living out in the countryside, and that she was smart enough and clever enough to end up where she was. And she also was an incredibly controversial character, and there were as many people that hated her as there were that loved her, and I think she's mysterious.
Do you think that there are similarities to how you lived? what you experienced?
I don't think there's similarities as to how we lived, because I'm certainly not interested in marrying a dictator. But in terms of being misunderstood, yes. And in terms of dealing with people who are jealous of you and people who are jealous of you and who are afraid of you, start sort of like slanderous propaganda about you, those kind of things I can certainly relate to.
Tell me a little bit about it, because I think...
Oh, do I have to?
If you want to, that would be nice if you would. You had a quite hard time dealing with the press maybe from a little while ago. You just said that you had the feeling people were jealous and they were writing bad things about you. Do you think that something changed in that way? Do you think that the acceptance changed?
Acceptance by whom?
Yeah, by the press, for example, of your work, of yourself.
Well, first of all, the press has always given me a hard time since the very beginning of my career. But there was a period of time, and it's actually continued for a very long time, since the time that I published my sex book and my record Erotica came out. There have been a lot of incredibly angry and but transparent things said about me. Yes, from that time period. And there has been, in my opinion, an enormous amount of effort put out by an enormous amount of people to try to undermine my contribution as an artist and say that I'm not talented, that I can't sing, that I can't act, as a sort of way of to get me to go away, to get me to shut up, to punish me, basically, for being a bad girl. And
why do you think? What do you think they can't cope with what you're doing?
My honesty, my opinions about sexuality, the fact that I am a woman and that I have success, that I have money, that I have fame, and I have fortune, and that I do it on my own. I don't need a man in that respect. I think that frightens a lot of people.
But don't you think, well, this is just a very personal opinion of mine, that I had the feeling that in the last 2 years, or maybe since Bedtime Stories, suddenly lots of people woke up and said, wow, she's doing great stuff, look at her. I mean, lots of friends of mine, and maybe this is not a complete range of people that I can quote, but they suddenly started looking at you differently.
Because they saw me as a survivor.
Maybe. Don't you think that the press sees you as a survivor now and now honors it somehow?
Yes, they've said to themselves, oh, we can't destroy her. Well, maybe we better think twice about it or something, yeah.
And all those bad things that you read about yourself, did they ever hurt you? Or don't they?
Absolutely. Yes.
Although you have the feeling it's not true, why can't you keep it away from you?
What hurts me is not whether it may be true or not. What hurts me is that so many people seem to get so much enjoyment out of hurting other people.
Yeah, but wouldn't you have seen that also when it wasn't in such a big thing, maybe just living in a little city, in a little village, and people hurting each other all the time? Didn't you experience that before?
Yes, but when you do it in an international, global way, when every time you turn on the television, or you read a magazine, or you open up a book, something is said about you, it's hard to